morning we hosted the CSI That Works breakfast, and we were talking particularly about those institutions that support students in higher education. As we know, higher education faces many challenges in South Africa, and the first challenge that we face is around access. We only have about 15% of students that have access to higher education, to universities in South Africa today. And if you look at the world benchmark, we should be somewhere in the region of about 30%. And in fact, if you look at East Asian countries, they've made a lot of progress and they are somewhere around 22%. So hosting this breakfast was sharing some of the best practice in terms of bursary programs particularly. Second challenge that we face is around equity, because we still have the remnants clearly of apartheid, where people based on race or gender, where they come from geographically, especially from rural areas, find it extremely difficult to have access to higher education. It is therefore important to learn some of the examples of best practice, what some of the organizations are doing to improve equity and attract students that come from the underprivileged areas. The third issue is around quality. I think quality is a problem and a challenge that faces basic education as well as higher education in this country. And we've got to do something about it. And organizations, including the private sector, NGOs, and other sectors of our society, need to play a role in working with government to improve quality. Last but not least, it is absolutely important for our institutions of higher education to produce local knowledge, to produce indigenous knowledge, and therefore we need resources to be allocated to research and development, particularly in higher education, to produce local content and local knowledge which will advance society. In other words, which will solve the problems that we face in this country, in the continent, but in other emerging markets as well.
Well, REAP has, over the years, developed a very strong network of volunteers and other partners, both NGOs and corporates, who help us identify the students with the talent and the passion in those rural areas who could make it at university level. So selection, recruitment, screening is vital. So getting the right students in the first place, in the right course, in the right institution. But then once they get there, they really need a whole load of other supports. So a consistent adult person in their life to walk alongside them, because most of our students don't have that person in their family who has any experience of higher education. So it's generic support, but then close relationships with the universities where we can refer them for more specialist support in academic areas, housing, health, social issues, even emotional issues. So it's selection and support during their time at university, I think, are the key ingredients. They need a lot of assistance, but it's also just encouraging them to work hard. We have a workshop series which addresses various studies and life skill issues, which gives them the tools they need to build on the natural abilities they already have, but often they've been in schools and in family situations where those talents weren't stimulated or nurtured, and so it's trying to encourage that kind of an ethos with those students once they get to higher education, and to stop them being diverted and challenged by the other myriad of problems that can face them from home and elsewhere as they make a huge transition from rural to urban, from school to university, from living at home to living independently.
To qualify as a chartered accountant takes 7 years. It's quite a rigorous course. It's very demanding on students, academically and otherwise. So the Thuthuka Bursary Fund basically provides support to make sure that students that undertake this program actually succeed, because there are many pitfalls along the way. Not only just academic, but they also have lives that we have to worry about. Their home lives, financially and otherwise. So Thuthuka tries to provide a holistic support, making sure that their academics are looked after, but making sure that the person is also looked after, so that they are able to go through and study. When they do qualify, they have some of the greatest jobs in the world. I mean, some of our students are now working in the industry as chartered accountants. Some of them are actually lecturers at universities. Some of them are working as business analysts. Some of them are working on projects such as sustainability. One of them is actually a technical learning manager for the Auditor General. and some of them actually have gone abroad. So they have fantastic jobs, and they are people who are able to make an impact, particularly given the fact that this skill is one that we really in short supply of in this country. So we're very proud as Thuthuka to be involved in making sure that the country gets the kind of skill that it needs. Our pass rate is actually quite good. Each year we are looking at a 70% pass rate at each year of study, but Thuthuka is actually producing better than that. But the more important thing for us is the throughput rate, meaning how many students actually qualify, go through and get their degrees. At the moment, Thuthuka is sitting at 60% of its students actually attain their first degrees, and 45% go on to attain their second degrees, which is what you need to qualify as a chartered accountant. So we're very proud of that stat. We are able to get that success rate because it's a holistic program that looks after the individual in their entirety, and also make sure that the educationally sound programs are in place to make sure that the students are able to pass.
The Recruitment Bursary Initiative at Stellenbosch University is not only focusing on the financial requirements and needs of students, it's also looking at their wellness and the kind of support that they need in order to succeed at the university. The main aim of the Recruitment Initiative is to broaden access at Stellenbosch University to ensure that the university is accessible to a broad spectrum of people and representative of South Africa. We require donors to support it at a basic level of 40,000 and at a maximum of 96,000 per annum. So what is it at hand for students? We're looking at their results, we're tracking it, and when we see that they're slacking, then that student will get called by the faculty. There's people in the faculties that support the students. There are mentors that the students can go to get support. They also have teaching and learning centers where students can go to for support. Then there are in-residence initiatives where students discuss things like life skills matters relevant to their degrees and academic programs, but more about what's happening in their lives to broaden their perspective on life. There's also the Listen Learn initiative, where students from diverse backgrounds are put together in a house and they learn to become sensitive and understanding of different cultures, ethnic groups and minorities, so that they go out into the world and value diversity. The initiative is really looking at the broad spectrum of a student, not only about financing their studies, but also looking at what it is that they need to be whole human beings that can go out into the world.
The National Student Financial Aid Scheme is a state-owned fund which administers loans and bursaries to students in both universities and FET colleges. In 2012, we disbursed 7.7 billion rand in funding to students in both sectors. And in 2013, we're estimating about 8.4 billion rand in funding to students. These students, in 2012, the numbers was 382,000 students in both sectors, about 199,000 students at universities, and about 180,000 students at FET colleges. The fund is also growing. We expect that these numbers will steadily grow in the next few years. Part of what the fund is also doing is to centralize the application process. We've started the process of centralizing applications for student financial aid. The process will start in 2014 with a limited number of universities and a limited number of FET colleges. This is to ensure that the rollout plan is properly managed until the full rollout in 2016. We're one of the major funders of students as NSFAS, and we collaborate with almost everyone that operates in this space. We collaborate mainly with the universities. Various universities, we have MOUs with universities because they currently administer loans and bursaries on behalf of NSFAS. We also have arrangements with certain universities where we run their own bursary programs. One of the universities that we run a bursary program for is the University of South Africa and the University of Cape Town. But there's various other universities that we run bursary programs for, and we collaborate with them. We also have strong partnerships with NGOs as we ask the NGOs to administer a small portion of the funding and ensure that they support the students, they ensure that these students do indeed succeed at the end of the academic year.